One man played in 2 World Cup finals for 2 different countries. A stray dog once saved the entire tournament from disaster, and a team that earned its place at a World Cup simply decided not to show up. The World Cup is more than a century old, and even people who have watched every final still get these wrong. 10 facts that sound invented. They are all true, and number 1 still does not feel real. We open with raw speed. Number 10, 11 seconds. That is all it took for the fastest goal in World Cup history. The 2002 third-place match, Turkey against South Korea. From the kickoff, the ball moves back, a mistake, and Turkey's Hakan Şükür is through. He scores before most of the crowd has even sat down. 10.8 seconds officially. Players train their whole lives for one World Cup goal, and the quickest one ever was basically over before the match began. No one has come close to beating it in more than 20 years. 11 seconds of football, and a record that has outlived entire careers. Next comes the most chaotic match ever refereed. Number 9, Portugal against the Netherlands, 2006, the round of 16. On paper, a classic. On the pitch, a brawl. The Russian referee Valentin Ivanov lost control completely and reached for his pocket again and again and again. By the final whistle, he had shown 16 yellow cards and 4 red cards. 4 players sent off in a single World Cup match, a record that still stands today. They call it the Battle of Nuremberg. Even FIFA's president at the time said the referee himself deserved a card for how badly it was handled. 2 of the best teams in the world and 90 minutes of pure anarchy. Here is one that breaks every rule about age. Number 8. By 42, most footballers have been retired for a decade. Roger Milla was scoring at the World Cup. The Cameroon striker had already retired from international football twice when his country called him back for the 1994 tournament in the United States. And against Russia, at the age of 42, he scored. He remains the oldest goal scorer in World Cup history, and it is not close. A generation older than his opponents, dancing at the corner flag. Most players dream of one World Cup. Milla was still finding the net in his 4th decade. This next one belongs to a single name. Number 7. In almost 100 years of World Cups, with hundreds of legends, only one player has ever won it 3 times. Pele, Brazil, 1958, 1962, and 1970. No one else in history has 3 winners' medals. Not Maradona, not Messi, not Ronaldo. And he started young. In that first triumph in 1958, Pele scored in the final as a 17-year-old, still the youngest player ever to score at a World Cup. 3 titles at one end of his career, a record for the youngest at the other. One man holds both. We may never see it again. Picture the loudest stadium ever built. Number 6. The biggest crowd in the history of football gathered to watch one team win and watched them lose. The 1950 final, Brazil against Uruguay, at the brand new Maracana in Rio. Officially, 173,000 people. Unofficially, closer to 200,000. Brazil only needed a draw. They took the lead, and then Uruguay scored twice and silenced the largest football crowd ever assembled. They call it the Maracanazo. Grown men wept in the stands. It is still talked about in Brazil as a national tragedy more than 70 years later. The biggest audience the sport has ever seen, and it watched a heartbreak.
This story sounds completely invented. Number 5. Months before the 1966 World Cup, the trophy itself was stolen. The original Jules Rimet trophy, taken from a public display in London. Gone. A national embarrassment with the tournament weeks away. And it was not a detective who found it. It was a dog. A collie named Pickles, out for a walk with his owner, sniffed out a package wrapped in newspaper under a garden hedge. Inside was the World Cup. Pickles became a national hero, but the story does not end well. That same original trophy was stolen again in 1983 in Rio and was never recovered. Most believe it was melted down for gold. A dog saved it once. The second time, no one could. Imagine earning your place and then staying home. Number 4. In 1950, India qualified for the World Cup in Brazil and then chose not to go. For decades, the story was that FIFA banned them because their players wanted to play barefoot. It is a great story. It is also a myth. FIFA had no rule requiring boots until 1953, and India happily played barefoot at the Olympics 2 years later with no objection. The real reasons were far less romantic: the cost of the long trip to Brazil, too little time to prepare, and a federation that simply valued the Olympics more. India has never qualified for a World Cup since. A nation of hundreds of millions had its one chance and let it walk out the door. Some records are meant to be broken. This one is not. Number 3. 13 goals. Not in a career, in a single World Cup. France's Just Fontaine scored 13 times at the 1958 tournament, across just 6 matches. To understand how absurd that is, modern Golden Boot winners are thrilled with 6 or 7 goals in a whole tournament. Fontaine got 13, 68 years ago, and no one has come within shouting distance since. It is arguably the safest record in the entire sport. 1 tournament, 6 games, 13 goals. We will likely never see it touched. You have seen this on television without ever knowing why. Number 2. Every World Cup, the final 2 games in each group kick off at exactly the same time. You've seen it. You probably never asked why. The answer is a scandal from 1982. West Germany and Austria worked out that a 1-0 German win would send both of them through and knock out Algeria. So Germany scored early, and then both teams simply stopped playing. They passed it sideways for over an hour in front of a furious crowd. They call it the disgrace of Gijón. It was so blatant that FIFA changed the rules forever. From then on, the last group games are played at the same time, so no team can ever know the exact result it needs. One shameful afternoon rewrote the tournament. And the strangest one of all, number 1. One man has played in 2 World Cup finals for 2 different countries. His name was Luis Monti. In 1930, he played the very first World Cup final for Argentina, his home country, and lost to Uruguay. 4 years later, he was in the final again, this time wearing the blue of Italy, who welcomed him through his Italian ancestry. And in 1934, Italy won. So Monti holds a loser's medal and a winner's medal from 2 different World Cup finals for 2 different nations. In today's game, it is almost unthinkable. He remains the only person in history to do it, the most quietly astonishing record in the World Cup. If even one of these surprised you, do me a favor and subscribe. This channel digs up the story behind every World Cup all the way through 2026, and settle a debate for me in the comments. How many of these did you already know? Be honest. Number 1 is the real test.